The alley behind Lincoln Street smelled like fryer oil and wet cardboard. A neon diner sign flickered across cracked brick walls. Dumpsters sat crooked beside a chain-link fence. Someone had sprayed fresh graffiti over an older mural. The rain had stopped 15 minutes earlier. Water still dripped from fire escapes above. Officer Mike stepped carefully around puddles and broken glass. He had worked night patrol in Cleveland for 12 years. Nothing about this alley surprised him anymore, except one thing tonight felt wrong. A woman named Carla stood near the entrance, shaking slightly. She pointed deeper into the alley without speaking. Mike followed her gaze. The ground behind the dumpsters looked strangely bright. Not bright like headlights. Bright like faint green paint glowing underwater. A row of footprints stretched along the wet pavement. Each one shimmered softly in the dark. They looked fresh and oddly precise. Left foot, right foot, step after step into the alley's shadow. Mike crouched and stared at them. The glow pulsed faintly when rainwater moved across the concrete. Carla whispered that she saw a man running minutes earlier. He wore a dark hoodie and moved fast, but the strange part came after he passed her. Every step he took lit up the ground. Mike ran a flashlight beam across the prints. The glow faded slightly under white light. Then it returned once the beam moved away. The alley was silent again. No suspect, no sound of footsteps. Only that quiet green trail. It curved between dumpsters like something alive. Mike felt a chill that had nothing to do with rain. Because criminals sometimes leave fingerprints, but glowing footprints were something entirely different. Carla insisted she was not hallucinating. She worked late shifts at the diner every Friday night. Around midnight, she carried trash to the alley. That was when the man sprinted past her. He nearly knocked over the trash cart. Carla yelled in surprise. The man never slowed down, but something strange happened as he ran. His shoes touched the pavement, and each step suddenly glowed bright green, not faint reflections. Actual light blooming under his feet. Carla swore the footprints appeared instantly. They stayed visible, even after he turned the corner. Mike thought maybe she saw reflections from the diner sign, but the sign flickered pink and blue, never green. Another patrol officer arrived moments later. His name was Dan. Dan walked slowly along the glowing trail. The footprints continued for nearly 30 yards. Then they stopped abruptly near a fence. No scuff marks, no climbing scratches, just the last glowing step. The officers checked the ground carefully. No paint cans nearby, no glow sticks broken on the pavement. The prints slowly faded while they watched. First the edges dimmed, then the center darkened like cooling embers. Within 15 minutes, they disappeared completely. Dan looked at Mike and shrugged. Maybe some prank powder, he suggested. But the pattern bothered Mike. Each print matched a running stride perfectly. Heel first, then the front of the shoe. The glow formed exactly where pressure touched concrete. Mike photographed the last faint traces anyway, because strange evidence has a habit of mattering later, even when nobody believes it. By morning, the story had already spread online. Ghost runner leaves glowing tracks, one headline claimed. Local radio hosts joked about radioactive sneakers. The Cleveland Police Department preferred a simpler explanation. They called it chemical residue. Detectives believed the suspect ran through spilled glow powder, maybe something from a novelty store shipment. When his shoes hit wet pavement, the powder reacted with moisture. At least that sounded reasonable enough for a report. No suspect was identified. No victim reported a crime. Technically, nothing illegal had even happened. A man simply ran through an alley. Strange footprints were not evidence of anything serious. The case file stayed thin. 2 witness statements, 6 blurry photos from Mike's phone, 1 short note about temporary luminescence on wet asphalt. A detective named Harris reviewed the report briefly. He rubbed his eyes and closed the folder. Probably some kids experimenting with glow chemicals, Harris said. No laboratory testing was ordered. No forensic team visited the alley. City crews washed the pavement the next afternoon. Rain finished the job overnight. Whatever residue existed was gone. The department moved on to robberies and car thefts. Mike tried mentioning the strange glow again during briefing. Most officers laughed politely. Dan joked about haunted running shoes. Soon the incident became a minor station legend. Something funny that happened on a quiet Friday night. The file was archived before the week ended. Officially, the mystery was solved. Unofficially, nobody actually understood what caused the light. And that detail quietly waited for someone curious enough to notice. Morning light filled the forensic lab at Cuyahoga County. Most people imagine crime labs full of dramatic discoveries. Dr. Ryan preferred quiet routines and careful measurements. He specialized in trace chemistry, tiny substances that tell very large stories. Ryan arrived every morning before the technicians. Coffee first, then the microscope lights. He believed evidence speaks clearly when handled patiently. Rushing always creates noise instead of answers. That morning, he examined fibers from a burglary jacket. Blue polyester threads under magnification looked like tiny cables. Ryan photographed each strand carefully. Then he logged chemical dyes using a handheld spectrometer. Numbers first, conclusions later. His method was simple and painfully slow. Observe, measure, test, repeat until nothing surprises you anymore. Most cases ended exactly like that. Ordinary materials behaving exactly as chemistry predicts. Ryan liked those cases. Predictable science means fewer innocent people blamed. Around noon, a technician named Laura walked into the lab. She held a tablet and looked amused. "Have you seen this weird police report?" she asked casually. Ryan glanced up from the microscope lens. Laura showed him photos from an alley. The images were grainy but unmistakable. Faint green footprints glowed across wet pavement. Ryan leaned closer to the screen. Glow patterns always interest a chemist, because light usually means a chemical reaction somewhere. He zoomed into the first photograph. The glow appeared strongest under the heel. Pressure points clearly controlled the brightness pattern. Ryan frowned slightly. Glow powders normally scatter randomly. These prints looked strangely organized. He asked Laura where the images came from. "Local patrol case," she said, smiling. "Already closed." Ryan studied the screen again in silence. Closed cases rarely arrive at the lab, but strange chemistry sometimes hides inside boring paperwork. Laura left the tablet beside Ryan's keyboard. He intended to glance quickly and return to fiber work. Instead, he opened the entire report file. Officer statements appeared first. Carla described glowing footprints after a man ran past her. Ryan reread that line twice. Witness descriptions are usually unreliable under stress. Still, patterns sometimes survive exaggeration. Next came the photographs Mike had taken that night. Ryan increased brightness and contrast on the screen. The glow became clearer against the wet pavement. Each footprint looked chemically consistent. Same brightness, same color, same decay pattern across every step. That detail bothered Ryan immediately. Real accidents rarely produce perfect repetition. Two explanations formed quickly in his mind. Option 1 involved deliberate chemical trickery. Someone could coat their shoes with glow compounds, but that would require preparation and motive. Option 2 involved environmental contamination. The suspect might have stepped through reactive residue unknowingly. That scenario sounded messy and unpredictable, yet the footprints looked strangely controlled. Ryan leaned back in his chair. Ignoring the report would be the safe decision. The police had already closed the case. No crime was confirmed. No one requested laboratory analysis. Investigating alone would waste valuable time. But curiosity has a powerful effect on scientists. Ryan opened a fresh notebook page anyway. He wrote 3 words across the top: source of luminescence. Then he printed the photographs slowly. If chemistry produced those footprints, it left clues somewhere. Even washed pavement cannot erase everything. Ryan picked up his coat and car keys, because the fastest way to understand chemistry is simple. Go to the place where it happened. The alley behind Lincoln Street looked ordinary in daylight. Ryan parked near the diner and stepped onto wet asphalt. Garbage trucks rumbled somewhere down the street. Carlos Diner smelled strongly of coffee and frying onions. Nothing here suggested glowing footprints ever existed. Ryan walked slowly between the dumpsters. He carried a small evidence kit and camera. First, he photographed the pavement surface carefully. Tiny cracks ran like maps through the concrete. Rainwater collected in shallow depressions. Cleaning crews had clearly washed the alley recently. That was obvious from the soap streaks near the curb. Ryan crouched near the first reported footprint location. He rubbed the surface gently with a cotton swab. Then he sealed the swab in a plastic vial. Next, he repeated the process 10 feet deeper. Routine sampling rarely produces immediate answers, but patterns appear later inside laboratory results. Ryan continued mapping the alley step by step. Dumpster edges, fence posts, even the metal handles of the trash bins. Everything looked perfectly ordinary. No strange powders, no fluorescent stains under portable ultraviolet light. Ryan sighed quietly and closed the kit. Maybe the police explanation was correct after all. Glow novelty powder dissolves easily in rainwater. Then he noticed something odd near the fence. A faint, chalky smear clung to the pavement edge. It looked almost invisible against the concrete. Ryan aimed his UV lamp across the surface. The smear responded with a brief pale glow. Not green like the footprints, more like weak bluish light. Ryan dipped another cotton swab carefully into the residue. Chemistry rarely lies when samples reach the microscope. Still, one detail kept bothering him deeply. Why would a random spill glow blue here, yet produce bright green footprints 20 yards away. Ryan returned to the lab before evening traffic thickened. The alley samples waited quietly on the metal bench. Trace chemistry begins with very small questions. What exactly is present here? He opened the first vial under a microscope. Tiny white crystals clung to the cotton fibers. Ryan added a drop of distilled water. The crystals dissolved almost instantly. That alone meant nothing unusual. Many industrial salts behave exactly the same. He placed the liquid into a spectrometer tray. Numbers rolled across the screen slowly. Ryan frowned after the first scan completed. Iron traces appeared stronger than expected, not rust levels, something more concentrated. He repeated the scan twice to confirm accuracy. The results stayed exactly the same each time. Iron compounds can cause interesting chemical reactions, but they rarely glow on their own. Ryan moved to the second sample from the fence smear. This residue behaved completely differently. The cotton swab already showed faint blue fluorescence. He illuminated the sample with ultraviolet light again. The glow intensified slightly under stronger UV. Ryan recorded emission wavelengths carefully. Those numbers looked strangely familiar. Certain forensic reagents behave exactly like this. He opened a reference database on the computer. One compound immediately matched the emission pattern. Luminol derivatives used in industrial cleaning products. Ryan leaned back slowly in his chair. Luminol reacts with iron in oxidizers. That reaction famously produces blue chemiluminescent light. Forensic teams use it to reveal hidden blood traces, but that raised an uncomfortable question. Why would luminol residue sit inside a random alley? Even stranger, the witness reported green glowing footprints. Classic luminol reactions glow bright blue, not green. Ryan tapped a pencil against the table thoughtfully. Two chemical clues now existed. Iron contamination on the pavement, luminol-like residue near the fence. Both facts made scientific sense individually. Together, they refused to cooperate. Ryan stopped at Carla's diner later that evening. Sometimes witnesses remember details outside formal interviews. The diner hummed with late traffic and jukebox music. Carla recognized him immediately and waved from the counter. He ordered coffee and asked simple questions casually. Did the runner carry anything unusual? Did the ground look wet or dusty beforehand? Carla thought carefully before answering. She remembered one strange thing clearly. Earlier that night, a delivery truck parked near the alley. Two workers unloaded large plastic cleaning containers. They argued loudly while moving the crates. One container slipped and spilled onto the pavement. Carla remembered the smell most of all. Sharp and metallic, like bleach mixed with pennies. The workers washed the spill quickly using a hose. Most of the liquid ran toward the fence drain. Ryan felt something click inside his mind. Industrial cleaning chemicals often contain oxidizers, sometimes hydrogen peroxide or similar compounds. Those substances can trigger chemiluminescent reactions. But Carla added another detail unexpectedly. The workers complained about fluorescent degreaser concentrate. Ryan nearly dropped his coffee cup. Fluorescent additives appear in many cleaning solutions. They help workers see where surfaces were treated. Under certain lighting, they glow faintly green. Ryan suddenly imagined two chemicals meeting accidentally. Luminol-like cleaner on one side, fluorescent degreaser residue somewhere else, and a suspect running straight through both locations. Chemistry rarely cares about human plans, but when reactive substances mix, light can appear. Ryan finished his coffee quickly. Now he finally had a direction worth testing. Back in the lab, Ryan prepared a simple experiment. He poured a small amount of luminol cleaning residue. Next, he added diluted hydrogen peroxide carefully. Those two ingredients commonly appear in industrial cleaners. He turned off the overhead laboratory lights. Then he introduced a trace of iron solution. The beaker flashed bright blue instantly. Classic luminol chemiluminescence filled the glass container. Ryan nodded because that result was expected. Blue light confirmed the reaction mechanism. But the witness never described blue footprints. Carla insisted they glowed green in the alley. Ryan opened a cabinet containing fluorescent dye samples. Many detergents include harmless fluorescent brighteners. They absorb invisible ultraviolet light easily. Then they emit visible green or bluish light. Ryan added a tiny drop of green fluorescent dye. The mixture still glowed blue initially, but something interesting happened seconds later. The blue light faded while green brightness intensified. Ryan leaned closer to the beaker. The fluorescent dye absorbed the blue chemiluminescent light. Then it re-emitted the energy as green light. This process is called fluorescence energy transfer. One light source feeds another invisible energy step. Ryan tested the reaction again using a shoe sole. He dipped the rubber tread lightly into the mixture. Then he stepped onto dark laboratory tiles. Each footprint lit up bright green instantly. The glow lasted several seconds before fading slowly. Ryan walked 3 more steps across the floor. 4 glowing footprints formed a perfect trail. Hail first, then the front of the shoe. Exactly like the photographs from Mike's phone. Ryan stared at the glowing prints quietly, because now the chemistry finally made sense. Someone had unknowingly walked through a reactive spill, and every step turned invisible chemistry into light. Ryan invited Officer Mike and Detective Harris to the laboratory the next morning. Both men looked skeptical while entering the quiet room. Ryan placed 3 glass beakers on the counter. One contained clear liquid. Another held faint green dye. The third sat empty beside a rubber shoe sole. Mike folded his arms and watched silently. Harris checked his phone impatiently. Ryan dimmed the laboratory lights. Then he poured a small amount of luminol cleaner into the beaker. Next, he added hydrogen peroxide carefully. The mixture remained completely invisible. Nothing appeared unusual yet. Ryan spoke calmly while preparing the next step. Some cleaning products contain luminol-like compounds, he explained slowly. They react with oxidizers and certain metals. Mike raised an eyebrow but kept watching. Ryan dipped a glass rod into iron solution. Then he touched the rod to the liquid surface. Blue light burst inside the beaker instantly. The glow spread like lightning through water. Mike stepped closer to the counter. That's the same kind of light forensic teams use? Ryan said. Chemiluminescence from oxidation reactions. Harris finally looked interested. Ryan pointed to the second beaker. This dye behaves differently, he continued calmly. It absorbs light energy and emits another color. He poured the glowing blue liquid into the green dye. The color changed slowly before their eyes. Blue faded. Green brightness took over the glass container. That process is fluorescence energy transfer, Ryan said quietly. The blue reaction feeds energy into the dye molecules. They release that energy as green light instead. Mike nodded slowly as the idea formed. Ryan picked up the rubber shoe sole. He dipped it briefly into the glowing mixture, then he stepped onto the dark laboratory floor. A bright green footprint appeared instantly beneath his shoe. He took 3 more careful steps forward. 4 glowing footprints stretched across the tiles. Each one faded gradually after several seconds. Mike stared at the floor trail in silence. Ryan turned the overhead lights back on. The suspect stepped through a chemical spill, he concluded calmly. Every step activated that same reaction on wet pavement. Ryan spread photographs from the alley across the table. Mike recognized them immediately from that rainy night. Ryan traced the path with a pencil slowly. The story begins before the suspect even arrives, he explained. Earlier that evening, a delivery truck parked beside the diner. Workers unloaded industrial cleaning supplies near the alley entrance. One container slipped and spilled onto the pavement. The chemical mixture contained oxidizers and fluorescent degreaser additives. Workers washed the spill quickly toward the drainage area. But washing never removes everything completely. Small residues remain trapped inside cracks of the pavement. Ryan pointed to the fence area sample. That location contained luminol-like cleaning residue, he said. Mike nodded slowly as he remembered the spot. Ryan moved his pencil toward the alley entrance. Another container leaked fluorescent degreaser near the dumpsters, he continued. The rain diluted both chemicals, but spread them across the surface. Now imagine someone running through that alley minutes later. His shoes hit the oxidizer residue first. Then they touched iron-rich pavement dust. Chemiluminescence activated briefly beneath each step. Blue light formed instantly, but lasted only seconds. Then the fluorescent dye absorbed the energy. The dye re-emitted that energy as bright green light. Ryan tapped one photograph where the prints curved. That explains the exact stride pattern, he said. The glow appeared only where pressure contacted pavement. Heel first, then the front tread of the shoe. Rainwater helped spread the reaction across the surface. The suspect unknowingly carried the chemistry forward. Each step refreshed the reaction with new oxygen and friction. The result looked supernatural to witnesses, but the mechanism remained entirely chemical. Detective Harris leaned over the photographs thoughtfully. The chemistry explains the light, he admitted slowly, but it still doesn't explain the runner. Ryan nodded because that question mattered most. He opened another folder beside the lab samples. Inside were shipping records from the cleaning supply company. Ryan slid the documents across the table. Mike scanned the delivery invoice carefully. The shipment belonged to a contractor named Leo. Leo handled overnight sanitation for several downtown restaurants. Carla's Diner appeared clearly on the delivery list. Ryan pointed to one additional detail in the record. Leo's company recently switched to new degreaser formulas. Those products contained strong fluorescent brighteners. Ryan opened another photograph taken near the alley fence. It showed faint shoe tread impressions in drying residue. Mike recognized the pattern immediately. Deep triangular lugs across the rubber sole. Construction boots, Mike said quietly. Ryan nodded again. Leo often worked alone during late-night deliveries. He unloaded heavy containers himself behind the diner. According to Carla, Leo argued with a co-worker that night. The spilled container likely happened during that argument. Ryan pulled up security footage from a nearby parking lot camera. A hooded man appeared running through the alley minutes later. The camera captured only a brief side angle, but the shoes were clearly visible under the streetlight. Heavy black work boots with triangular tread patterns. Mike exhaled slowly as the picture formed. Leo probably returned later to fix the spill quietly. Maybe he feared losing a contract with the diner. When he stepped into the residue, chemistry did the rest. Every step betrayed him with glowing footprints. Not magic, just light produced by careless chemistry. Detective Harris expected the story to end with embarrassment. A contractor spills chemicals and accidentally glows in the dark. Case closed. But Ryan kept reading through the shipping documents. Several invoices looked almost identical. Same fluorescent degreaser concentrate, same oxidizing cleaning additive, same delivery schedule across downtown restaurants. Ryan circled 3 locations quietly with a pen. All 3 reported strange maintenance incidents recently. One kitchen floor suddenly glowed under low light. Another building alarm triggered after mysterious blue flashes. None of those reports reached police formally. They stayed buried inside maintenance logs. Ryan placed the pages beside the alley photographs. The same chemical combination appeared everywhere. Oxidizer residue, fluorescent brightener concentrate, iron-rich surfaces common in urban concrete. The ingredients for chemiluminescent reactions existed across multiple buildings. Mike leaned closer to the table. So anyone stepping through that mix could glow? Ryan nodded slowly. Yes, especially on wet pavement or metal surfaces. Harris rubbed his forehead uneasily. Restaurants often store those chemicals in large containers. If handled incorrectly, the residues could spread unnoticed. Ryan pointed to a safety sheet in the folder. The degreaser manufacturer warned about reactive contamination. Mixing with oxidizers could produce visible light and heat. Not dangerous usually, but very unpredictable in uncontrolled environments. Now imagine those chemicals entering drainage systems or spreading across kitchen floors during busy nights. Employees could unknowingly trigger reactions everywhere. Bright flashes, strange glowing footprints, even small bursts of heat near metal surfaces. Ryan looked at both officers carefully. This alley incident might be the first visible warning, he said, because chemistry does not remain politely inside containers. It follows gravity, water, and human mistakes. 2 days later, they met Leo behind the diner again. Morning traffic roared along Lincoln Street nearby. Leo stood beside his delivery truck, unloading cleaning crates. He looked tired and slightly irritated. Harris approached calmly, while Ryan watched quietly. Mike carried printed photographs from the alley incident. Leo glanced at them briefly and shrugged. Looks like some prank glow powder, he said casually. Ryan stepped forward and placed a small glass vial nearby. Inside sat a faint chalky residue from the pavement sample. Ryan explained the chemistry slowly and clearly. Luminol-based cleaner, oxidizing agents, fluorescent degreaser additives. Each ingredient matched Leo's shipment records exactly. Leo crossed his arms but said nothing. Ryan continued speaking in the same calm voice. When those chemicals mixed with iron dust, they produced light. Your boots carried the reaction across the alley. Mike placed the tread photograph beside Leo's shoes. The triangular pattern matched perfectly. Leo glanced down briefly at his boots. Still, he never admitted anything aloud. Harris mentioned the spilled container described by Carla. Leo shrugged again and lifted another crate casually. Lots of chemicals spilled during deliveries, he said quietly. That doesn't mean I ran through glowing puddles. Ryan did not argue further. Instead, he placed the experiment video on the truck hood. The screen showed glowing green footprints across the laboratory floor. Leo watched the video carefully without speaking. His expression changed only slightly. Then he closed the truck door harder than necessary. Interesting science, he muttered finally. But he never denied owning those boots. That night, the alley behind Lincoln Street looked ordinary again. No glowing footprints marked the pavement anymore. Rain had washed the surface clean days earlier. Cars passed. Trash bins rattled quietly in the wind. Officer Mike stood there, remembering the strange green trail. At first, it looked like something impossible. A runner leaving light behind every step. Witnesses thought they saw something supernatural. But the truth began much smaller. Just molecules colliding in the dark. Luminol oxidizing in the presence of iron, fluorescent dyes absorbing blue energy and glowing green. Chemistry turning invisible reactions into visible light. Ryan explained it later during a small department briefing. Most officers listened with quiet fascination. Some still preferred the ghost story version, because glowing footprints sound better than chemical kinetics, yet the science fits every detail perfectly. The rain, the spilled cleaners, the iron dust on city pavement, even the exact stride pattern of the suspect. Nothing magical actually happened that night. only chemistry revealing itself for a moment. Mike walked slowly along the same path again. He imagined the glowing steps appearing under his boots, bright green prints fading one by one behind him, then darkness returning to the alley. The evidence vanished within minutes, but the explanation remained. So here is the real question now. If invisible chemistry can light up footsteps in the dark, how many other reactions around us happen silently every day?